Hi there, my name is Sky and I'd love to be your new favorite art teacher. This week, paint along with me to create a festive gingerbread village. I'll take you through it every step of the way. Thanks for being here. Let's jump in. Hello again, beautiful artists, and welcome back to another episode of Paint Along with Sky, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sky and I post beginning level acrylic painting tutorials like this twice a month on the second and fourth Saturdays. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we are fast approaching the Christmas season, the holiday season. So we're going to do a classic holiday activity today, which is decorating gingerbread houses, but we're going to do a whole gingerbread village, of course, in our imaginations here with paint instead of cookies. So we're going to use our 3 standard brushes, and I also have a small ruler. I can't find my big ruler. It doesn't matter if your ruler is big or small. Totally fine. And it also doesn't matter if it's clear or just regular. I just want something that is a nice straight edge that I can level off. And then I have my 3 brushes that I use in most of my classes. I like to use a square wash brush. This is a size 16, about 3/4 of an inch. And then I have 2 pointed brushes, a size 8 and a size 4. They don't have to be, your brushes don't have to be the exact same as mine, same sizes, but they should be the same general size and shape and made for a water media. I'm going to put those in my water cup and put my ruler aside for now. And the colors that I have to start out with for my background step, keeping it really simple to start, we're gonna do this in a few steps, but we're gonna start with a little bit of ultramarine blue and some black and white. To see a full materials list of everything that you'll need to paint along, check the description box below. It'll show you the colors for today's tutorial, but it will also have a link to my materials page on my website, which is skypratt.com, SKYEPRATT.com. You can click on the materials page and it'll break it down for you, everything that you need to paint along. Okay, let's jump right back on into things. So, this first step is going to be pretty important. We are going to sort of sketch things out first before we start filling in. And what I'm going to do, this is like kind of a 2-part first step, is we'll sketch our shapes and then we'll start with the very background color, which is going to be, of course, the night sky. But with our shapes, I'm going to start with my tiny brush and I'm going to make a very light gray, sort of like a pencil color. And you could use a pencil in this if you would prefer. And then I'm going to use my ruler, use it to make some buildings. And you are just doing the sketches with this first step, so they don't need to be perfect. We are going to have a few options when it comes to correcting things, making them a little bit neater in the filling in process. But I'm going to do about a 2 ruler width. I want to do like apartment buildings. It's kind of like Christmas in the city, but in like a European city, right? Like a quaint little village, but with still a good amount of buildings. So let's see, I want to do some, of course, taller than the others. And you could do like a skyscraper version, but you gotta think about decorating it with all of your frosting and candies. So we're doing a sort of like the classic multi-story European village house look. You can get creative with this though, for sure. So I'm starting just with the rectangles. And I'm going to do a tall one next. I'm going to have a couple trees in the mix too, but I like to sort of layer things. That looks nice compositionally, and these villages would be very crowded, very densely populated. Not too crowded, but you know. Have a high population density Great, okay, and then I think I'm gonna do one that's kind of coming off the edge. So that would be going that direction. And then to do some trees, let's see. I think I'm gonna do one tree over here. I'm just gonna start with a little dot, and then I'll come down on the sides, go about the same distance out. And then disconnect the triangle. We'll get a nice tree shape that way. Just a basic triangle tree, or, so you can get creative here. We could do something a little fancier. So I'm gonna do that dot. Actually, let me just, I'm gonna kind of freehand it. I'm going to do sort of like layered triangles. Just with each layer getting a little wider. And we'll come off the bottom here at the base. Okay, and those are just the sketchy shapes, just to start out with. Oh, and then I need to do the tops of my buildings too. And you could use your ruler and do like the triangle tree version, or you can just sort of freehand things. For my tallest building, I'm going to do like a flat roof shape that then connects triangularly, but not a full triangle, so diagonally, I suppose. Then I'll have triangle top for the other buildings. Just really basic shapes today. Building our little city shape by shape. Okay. Not so hard. Things can be a little bit sketchy, doesn't have to be perfect. And we just have kind of our training wheels now, kind of like a little paint by numbers that we did ourselves. So let's grab our largest brush now and start filling in some gorgeous colors. So you're going to overlap your sketches a little bit today with this next step, and that's okay. We're going to mix our blue and black together and get a nice nighttime blue. I'm going to start with the darkest version up along the top. Of course, it's like where the night sky is creeping in. But maybe we have a little bit of a lighter blue towards the horizon once we get there. Okay, a little bit of white. That was probably too much. There we go. And I'm going to do a light blue here at the bottom, but we do want the textures to match too. So I can't just fill that in smooth. But it's okay, we could have done a full layer of blue and then sketched out our shapes with white, but this is going to be a time saver, so just trust the process and come along with me, don't worry. If things get a little messy bit down here, you're not gonna get perfect edges when you have this sort of textured brush stroke, and that's okay. We will tidy things up as we go. And I'm just laying my brush different ways to get that texture. We don't want too dramatic of a gradation. You could if you wanted, really, but I'm going for subtle difference in my blues. A little bit darker up top, a little bit lighter towards the bottom. And I can sort of exaggerate that too. Sometimes you can blend right on the painting. It doesn't always need to be the exact color on your palette first. Okay. And again, just mostly leaving your shapes white. It's okay if you go over the edge. We'll fix that in just a minute. Great, okay, and this is kind of like the folk art paintings that I do sometimes where they look folksy, they look kind of cutesy. So you're like, oh, well, that's gonna be really easy to do. But there's actually kind of a lot to it. It's kind of like baking or like doing folk art. There's a lot to that craft practice for it to end up looking folksy. That's not an accident. So if you feel a little overwhelmed, don't worry. We're just gonna go one step at a time, but a lot of times it is like these food ones, like making gingerbread houses, or I guess, yeah, in this case, we're doing a whole gingerbread village. I don't know if you've decorated cookies as a tradition where you are, but that's certainly big here in the Western US, and it's always a lot more difficult than it looks, and people get really frustrated. I always thrive. But it's not fair because I teach painting. I'm not allowed at cookie parties anymore. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's let this dry for a minute, and then we will come back and add our gingerbread color. It will help us to not blend into this blue because we want to get good coverage with the next step. All right, I'll see everyone in another couple minutes. Welcome back, artists. We have a dry background layer of sky color, and I have some fresh colors on a new piece of palette paper. So I have a fair amount of white and a fair amount of burnt sienna brown, some black, cadmium yellow, and cadmium red, a little bit of phthalo green, and a little bit more blue. Let's jump right back on into things. I'm going to grab my large brush again, and I'm going to use this brush because it is square in shape, and I'm going to pick a few, so I'm going to do like 2 different flavors of gingerbread, so 2 different tones just to make things interesting. So I'm going to do one that's pretty light, and then I'll do a darker one too. So some of my buildings I'm going to do in this light gingerbread color. And I want to try to get good coverage. If you can see through a little bit, that's okay, because we're gonna get some frosting on there and lots of decoration, but we want to start with a solid layer of our gingerbread color. And I'm thinking about which ones I'm going to do a darker color. Again, it just makes things a little bit more interesting. You could do all one color gingerbread. Always overcomplicating things in the kitchen. Okay, and I'm sort of leaving my triangle tree here. I'm going to fill it in with just a really similar color here in just a minute. And I'm going to make all of my brush strokes up and down to get nice consistency. Okay, and then let's do this tree. And then I'm going to do my 2 buildings and then my other tree in my darker gingerbread color. If you would prefer to use your small brush, feel free. Of course, with your big brush, you can either use it like this or wide, so it's very versatile in that way. And we're going to use our small brush in a bit when we do all of our lovely colors and decorations. So I'm going to stick with this brush for now. Okay, and now let me make a darker gingerbread color. There is an area that I might need to retouch with blue a little bit. And let me fill in these main shapes first, and then I think I will come back with a smaller brush and tidy up some of the text. Whatever brush you're comfortable with is the right brush for the job. Very gingerbread color. Ooh, my coffee is right next to my water cup. And I almost just put my brush in my coffee. Be careful with that. I should probably put them further apart. Okay, and then let me grab my medium-sized brush for my smaller tree and for some of these tighter details. So I'm going to use this one. And I think rather than going in with blue, I think I'm just going to add some more warm brown around this building. And maybe bring it out a little further on the other side to balance things. Just the first layer, just working on our shapes. We can refine things in the future too, so I'm trying to make it easy for ourselves by keeping things tidy with every step, but especially with the final step, you can always touch things up. Great. Okay, and I'm going to refine my tree shape just a little bit with this medium-sized brush too. A little bit too much water. The more water you use, the more watered down, of course, the paint becomes, which means you get less opacity, and also it dries much quicker. Sometimes people don't realize that. They think maybe paint dries faster than water. It does not. A thinner layer of paint is going to have a quicker dry time. But that being said, there's really no wrong way to use acrylic paint. It's very versatile. So you can use almost no water, or you can water it down almost like watercolor. And that's whatever you'd like to do. There's not, we come from a land of hard rules. There's rules in even creative arts like cooking. Don't think of it like a recipe. Doesn't have to be followed exactly. We're getting creative. That's part of the fun of it. Okay, our cute little tree shape. Very satisfying. Okay, let's be patient and let this layer dry a little bit more. And that way when we come back, we can add a second coat if necessary and then start to decorate. I'm gonna leave those same colors on my palette paper, and I'll see everyone in another couple minutes. Okay, I let that layer dry. I did touch up a few areas. You may need to do that as well if you still have any very see-through areas before we start decorating, but it will take a little bit longer to dry, of course, with each layer, but we're being patient today. So any other little touch-ups that you might need for that layer, but I want to start decorating. So first, I want to add a snow layer. I'm going to kind of work from the outside in. So I have my medium-sized brush. I'm going to take just some white and I'm going to sort of gracefully as possible curve my way across, going up and down and create little snowbanks. Here for the ground, or icing, I suppose. And we'll have some icing on the top of our buildings to start us off with some decorations. Okay. I'm not going to do my trees quite yet, but I wanted a little bit of a thicker line. Okay, and I'm going to cheat, and you can too. So right at my supermarket's art section, right by the white paint, there's also white paint pens. So I got one. This is just a craft style. It honestly works really well. I'm going to use this to do some of my icing rather than using the paintbrush the whole time. So, you know, if you'd like to stick with the paintbrush, if you're a traditionalist, please feel free, but this is going to speed things up quite a bit. So all you have to do is sort of pump the paint to get it flowing. This was stored upside down. Oh, yes, or yes, this, I guess if this is right side up. So you gotta get the paint coming through the pen. But then as you can see, it creates a really nice thin line of icing. So I can do smaller details with it. And it really does speed things up. So we can start to ice our cookies however you like. I do want to do a sort of outside layer, like I said, working from kind of our outside in. So I'm going to do a thin layer of icing along the edge of every shape. Just like we would ice cookies. And this has sort of a liquidy consistency like cookies, a cookie icing would. Okay, and you can start to get creative with your shapes. So just like you would decorate an actual gingerbread house, you can decorate your tree however you see fit. And with my paint pen, I'm going to start to sort of section out areas or then I can come in and add some additional decorations. So for my cookies, I'm sort of thinking, or for my tree cookies, I'm sort of thinking like lights swirling up the Christmas tree. But for our houses, we'll of course need things like doors. And this is where your, sense of scope is important. So how big are your doors and windows? Okay, and then, just building your house however you think looks cute. going to have these sort of main shapes. Up here I want to do like shingles. I feel that a lot of times less is more, but not with cake decorating. I think more is more when it comes to icing. And then we gotta think too, it's not just icing because we have also candy to add. And not every roof has to have the shingles, but it's fun to add. Very cute. Let's do a window up top for this one instead. Very cute. Maybe we'll do a centered door. It's fun to kind of mix it up. And you get to be a gingerbread architect today. I love a circular window. This one is 3 stories. And doesn't need to be perfect. Might tidy that one up a little bit later, but we're just getting our sort of housing shapes right now. And we're gonna still have another opportunity for decoration. Maybe this one I'll do square windows. I like to make them a little bit wonky because it adds to the whimsy. Okay, cute. Do some doorknobs, and I think it would be nice to add some white lights in the trees too. And you can always grab the paint pen again or your paintbrush and add more, but I think I'd like to start to play with some other colors. Let's make those visibly windows too. Okay, so cute. Okay, let's start adding some fun colors. I'm gonna use my little brush for this, and I just have the one paint pen today, just with the white frosting detail. Otherwise, I'm going to stick back with my brush. Okay, I wanna do like colored lights. That's probably a little too dark. In a couple different colors. We're just gonna start going crazy with Christmas decor. And it can be nice to sometimes use the back of your brush too. If you'd like to get a really tiny circle, which can be nice for bulbs. Whatever colors you like. Okay, let's see what else can we add. I think I'm gonna do like a pass with each color. I'm gonna do like a front door decor. Lights on these houses. They're like gumdrops, right? Gumdrop decorating. And the small dots are lights. Maybe this guy was inspired by his neighbor. What's fun with gingerbread houses is you can get like really architectural with things. You know, you could add like window shutters, plants, things like that. and get really decorative, or you can just add some gumdrops and stuff because it's also candy, right? So whatever you'd like. The green that I mixed, again, I always like to add a little bit of yellow. I mentioned this a lot. I like to use this phthalo green, which has a bit of blue in it. So I use the yellow to counteract the blue and make it nice grassy green. I'm just gonna do dots everywhere. Or yeah, that's a type of candy too, is dots. Cute, okay, let's see. I got a little bit more clean white because mine was getting a little colorful down there. Make sure my snow is nice and chunky. Okay, cute. I'm gonna do a couple sort of architectural elements. I'm going to put a triangle, sort of like a little overhang in front of my front doors because it's always nice to have a little patio area, front patio. Maybe that house doesn't have one. I think I want to add a window. You can see what a thick line I end up with. I think I'm going to do a little bit thicker lines on the top of these windows to make them look a little snowier. And that looks cute. I'm really going crazy. I'm just kind of jumping around. And you can be inspired by mine or go crazy on your own. Just wanted to fix that a little bit first. So cute, okay. And now I'm gonna start adding some cute hearts and dots, sort of like a Nordic inspired influence decoration choice. Like I said, you could add like sort of botanical elements, such as a little tree. I'm gonna add one here and have just like little leaves coming out from either side. Very cute and simple. Deciding where to put it. I kind of like that on its own. And then I'm gonna start adding some hearts in places that I can find. I want to have a couple sort of recognizable shapes. Okay. Maybe we'll do sort of some botanical inspired brush strokes up top. And we can do just some white dots on things too. We want to sort of run out of space, right? So we have lots and lots of decorations. Okay. Anywhere you like. Sort of framing the house. Okay, I think I want to do a few more things with my paint pen. I want to do like a squiggle on either side. Okay, and then I think I also need more decorations on my cookie trees. But that's looking pretty well decorated, I think. Only a few more little steps. Oh, I also want to paint my doors. So let's do that first. I really want to do this door blue. Blue is a Christmassy color too, because it's like frosty, wintry blue. Cute, okay. And then maybe we have some blue elements some other places, just to sort of mix things up. Cute little elements for the blue door. Why don't we give this guy a blue door too? And I am going to cover up my door handle for just a bit. But that's easy to add back in. Okay, and then with that same blue, let's add some ornaments. It's not big enough. I want it to be a little bigger than the white. But again, you can decorate your trees however you like. And how about a little bit of yellow? It's the one color we haven't used yet. Would be nice to add a few little yellow touches here and there too. That looks cute. It's kind of like a bright light. Okay. I'm going to take just a little pinch of black now and add some final touches. So I'm going to add a little bit of darkness right around the outside edges. So our colors are very light, and I find that this is just a really nice final step to add a bit more depth to our whole composition. So we are just essentially outlining with a nice dark brown and black together. Let me know if you liked the paint pen, or if you even used it or just stuck with a brush. It can be very tempting to use paint pens in the future, and it's not cheating really. It's whatever you like. Whatever art tools work for you is just fine. Okay, I'm not going to do the top though, so I'm going to leave that snowy. I'm going to touch up my snow a little bit in the front, just a few final details here and there now. But let me also take just a pinch of this brown, maybe a little bit of a lighter version of it, sort of grayish. And I want to add some quick shadows inside some of these shapes, and that's really going to make it look like a little more like you actually frosted it on. Just like a little bit in each section as a shadow. It doesn't need to be everywhere. Just Just a little bit here and there. And stick to the same side because your light source would be coming from the same place. Unless you have multiple lights, I suppose. And you've made your nice ginger mansion however you like. Putting on the final touches. And then same idea, just a little bit lighter. And your lighter color gingerbread. Just a little touch. I think it might be harder to paint a gingerbread house than it is to make one, because you have to do steps like this. Mimic the shadows. And I'm going quick. I might come back and touch things up a little here and there later if needed. Your shadows don't really need to be perfect because your icing wouldn't have been. It's like pretty much impossible to make perfect icing. Okay, and then just kind of my final finishing outline everywhere that isn't covered with snow. With a darker color. So I'm using either a dark brown or sort of medium dark brown. Final touches. I think I kind of like my tree to not have too harsh of a shadow. Really just light-handed with that one. Oh, and I suppose I'll leave that door wooden color, but you could do a cute door color for that too. And you can add any other little final touches that you may need on your gingerbread neighborhood. You can also add a final little touch of whimsy with a couple spirals of some snow flurries. And the snow flurries are going to carry a bit of snow with them. Little white dots. And there we have a very whimsical and hopefully still pretty easy gingerbread block, a whole gingerbread block. I would love to know what you thought of today's painting in the comments section below. If you painted along with me, I love to see my students' artwork, and I created a Facebook group so that you can share it with me since you can't post photos here on YouTube yet. So you can join me over there. It's called the Art Club. It's free to join. There's a link in the description box below that will take you over there. And thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a very happy holiday season. Got more fun holiday paintings coming up. So thanks again, and until next time, happy holidays and stay creative.